Start our March 5th road and bridge.
First agenda item, I think, is the letter for City of Idaho Falls, right?
Yes.
So I sent a copy of that to you guys. Did you have any questions on it or changes you want to make?
I don't think so. Second. Austin, just one correction. Agreement. Agreements, it's not a word.
You're what?
Agreement
Oh.
is a word. Agreements. is not.
Yeah.
Great.
I can't help myself.
I'm glad you have that attention to detail.
Yeah, you can take a copy and then I'll send it out.
And Carl will be back to sign.
Next,
Next is a modification of the agreement with Far Ox Engineering for right-of-way consultation on the 5th and 49th South Signal Project. This modification comes about because the first appraisal that came back had a lot of severance damages that we had not seen on other projects. And
Right.
this basically added about $8,900 to the contract. I've asked the question whether or not if we spend this 8,900, we'll avoid spending much more than that after the fact. And I've been led to believe that if we spend this 8,900, that we will save much more than that on the back end of it by not having as much severance damages.
okay. Update in the consulting service agreement. Application for Oryx. LLC.
Second that.
It's just the first page is the modification, all the rest of it is the original contract.
Okay.
Supply more than you've seen past to get the answer to that.
The answer that I got when I asked that was, we're the professionals and you should listen to us. That
Okay,
didn't
I
satisfy
really like
my-
that answer. Yeah,
I believe part of it having to do with this is a state money funded program versus most of the others have been self-funded right away, and we haven't had to use state money. We haven't had to do some of the environmental processes and some of the red tape that comes with getting federal or state money.
okay. Sense in a roundabout way.
I wish it didn't, because every time we use state money, it seems to
It's cost us a lot more.
cost us a lot more overall to get the same thing done. When you get a copy of that Ashley, will you email me a copy? Thank you. Then we have some findings of fact. You wanna do those?
We do.
Yeah, we can go through those. So the first one is application of amendment for the comprehensive plan from urban residential to mixed use on property owned by this estate of Nadine Stosich. So that's the copy to sign. I did send these to you for your individual review. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through any of it if there's any questions or concerns you have. I will just read for the general public that is attending, there's several conditions in the decision. But the overall decision is to, based on the approved above facts and findings, the Bonneville County Commissioners hereby approve the request for the comprehensive plan land use map amendment of the present urban residential land use to mixed use land use subject to the following conditions. And then there's conditions 1 through 11 that have to be complied with, as well as B, C, and D as part of that decision. Any questions, comments for me?
No.
So the motion to approve and then as written.
Accept and approve, finding of fact is written.
Estate of Nadine
State of
Stosich.
Nadine Stosich.
Second.
So while you're signing that, there's the next one on the agenda. So this is application for amendment of the comprehensive plan from urban residential to commercial on property owned by RBH Idaho LLC and McDonald's Real Estate Company. This is out on the corner of Am and Lincoln Road. Planning and zoning heard it on January 22nd, county commissioners on February 26th. There's
Thanks, gentlemen.
analysis and conclusion of law, findings of fact, and then the general decision was based upon the above facts and findings, Bonneville County Commissioners hereby approve the request for the comprehensive plan land use amendment to the present urban residential land use to commercial land use subject to the following conditions. Conditions 1 through 10, and then A, B, and C. Any questions for me?
No, once again, thank you for attention to detail and conscientious work provided by you and your staff.
And we should note for the record as well that these are matters that we've already discussed at length and had input on and reviewed individually with planning and zoning and then reviewed the document previously.
Yeah.
For all of these.
Third.
Oh.
Questions? And accept and approve the finding of fact as written for the RBH Idaho LLC and McDonald Real Estate Company.
Second.
So then our next one on the agenda, application for amendment of the zoning ordinance from INM1 industrial and manufacturing to M1A manufacturing zone for Kessler Companies LLC. Heard by planning and zoning January 22nd, heard by the county commissioners February 12th. Both hearings, there was public input that was received. Findings, analysis, and conclusion of law. And then the overall decision was to approve the request for amendment of the present industrial and manufacturing zone to manufacturing M1A, subject to the following conditions. There's conditions 1 through 7, and then B, C, and D. A, B, C, and D. Any questions, concerns, comments?
It's the front of it's right, hopefully, that they can continue to use this rental for,
Yeah, which as long as they continue the use, there's nothing that can be done. It just can't be replaced once the use is terminated. So
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? No, that's a separate meeting.
it's not public hearing, so.
hold that question. Other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay,
Going to say,
dying to hear what his is, right?
open meeting laws make me feel sneaky, because we can't talk to each other, and then this makes me feel rude, but I'll get used to it.
First time you thought.
We can talk about it after.
Yeah.
Not during the decision, so.
Well, with that, I will move we accept and approve as written the finding of fact for the I&M Industrial Kessler
Companies LLC.
LLC. East 25th and 26th North.
Second.
Okay, so then our last one that's on the agenda was the application for appeal by New Creed of Utah of the Planning and Zoning Commission decision to deny an application to allow a rural event venue in the A1 agricultural zone as allowed in section 1449 of the Bonneville County Planning and Zoning Ordinance. This is located out on 5th East, south of 129th North, west of 15th East, and the town of Yukon and north of 113th North. So the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this matter on December 4th, 2024, and denied the application because it did not comply with section 1449 of the County Planning and Zoning Ordinance with a 5-3 vote. There's finding of fact, and then under the analysis and conclusion of law, it goes through all the reasons of appeal that were submitted by the applicant, New Creed of Utah, and basically why the board felt that the Planning and Zoning Commission did not make any error in their decision. And then the final decision is based upon the above facts and finding. Bonneville County Commissioners hold the Planning and Zoning Commission did not err in its decision to deny the application to allow a rural event venue in an A1 agricultural zone as outlined in section 1449 of the Bonneville County Planning and Zoning Ordinance, because it does not comply with the Bonneville County Zoning Ordinance section 1449 criteria. Therefore, the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission is affirmed and the appeal is therefore denied. Any questions for me?
I have none. Accept and approve as written the finding of fact. The Creek of Utah appeal.
Hey, that's all I had.
What else do you have?
I'm gonna start putting together some more lighting districts, I guess, unless you guys have a program with that. When you were
Well,
working with on those
I would-
somehow, so.
really like, we discussed it with Scott again and treasurer and it seems to me, and that's why we'll have some discussion about it, that maybe the right way to treat, go ahead and move forward with the tax district, but I think it would be beneficial for the property owners if we set up a line item in road and bridge that we could put money in and then draw money out of for emergency replacement stuff and then pay back into from the tax levy over 3 or 4 years, so that we're not hitting them with a single year's bill for major replacement stuff. Scott says that works. Treasurer says that works.
We've got to build up our reserves in each of the districts, though.
Yes. And to do that, we need to know a more realistic number for what might be the medium line replacement for, and I know you can't consider everything, but you can't, probably hard to come up with a guess on how much it cost you to replace 200 feet of underground because some contractor tore it up and nobody knew and they didn't get billed for it. But
Well, maybe
single
in
repair
that
portion,
case, if
of
we
it,
could- we knew who did it, and.
then we could bill
Pay for it, so.
if we did in a timely fashion.
I still think there would be some merit too in the new ones, if there's a way to change the policy to have the developer front load the reserve a little bit.
How do you think we do that, practically speaking?
Right now, they go through.
$2,000 to create the district is what they're charged.
Is all that they pay is the
Yeah.
creation
And that's
fee,
mostly
right?
legal fee
Yeah,
to do it.
which is what we're paying.
So when it
Legal
comes to
levies,
Rocky Mountain
reserve.
Power, I mean, they contract with Rocky Mountain Power to do that. And if you were looking at a rough cost, maybe it'd be something like you look at what Rocky Mountain Power is gonna charge to put it in and double that, to have that as a reserve.
They do.
To
give
put
us
in
a-
all the poles, you're
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, and I mean, I would think you'd want kind of a maintenance, right? If there was a way we could find on average over the last 10 years, this is what's replaced and this is what the cost has been. But I don't know,
But how do we get the developers to pay that is what I'm,
included as part of their requirements in the development
we don't
agreement.
have to do anything different than just add that as a requirement.
You add that as an exaction as part of the subdivision plan.
Yeah,
To have something from Rocky Mountain Power, knowing what the installation cost is. And then whatever. We would have to figure that based on what the installation cost is.
yeah, and we just have to decide what we want that to be. Do you want it to be double? Do you want it to be a percentage? Do you want it to
And
be?
that's, yeah, I mean. If you look at what the upfront initial cost of it is. By the time those facilities are at point of replacement,
Costs are much higher.
doubling is
Yeah.
not gonna. Do it, but you also have that in the place and have it in, maybe in a place where they can. Gain some interest over that lifespan of those facilities.
Well, and you're also gonna get money from the people in the lighting district who are paying into it still. I was just talking, if you have the developer put. If it's 10,000 to replace a pole and the wiring, whatever, you say, okay, as part of this, you at least have to supply the reserve. For one pole replacement, so that we have a starting point, right, that we know the money's in there.
How are, is that going to have any impact on whether or not they develop?
It could.
I mean, I just
Did
think
you
we,
mean, would there be a negative effect? It's like it much should be negative. if we force them to do with their developments inside cities.
I mean, we do have to get to the point where the costs are being borne by the people who are making them. And in the current lighting districts, that's the people using them, but in new ones, we've got to have that upfront, it seems like to me, otherwise. Where we're at now.
Well, and I think that you'd have to figure out based off the size of the subdivision.
Right,
What you would collect and the amount of time it's gonna take to collect that, cause where we're gonna see the most problem is if you have a. 6 or 7 lot subdivision, right,
Right.
that you put in lights, that's where you really need the front end, because you're not making enough money to build up a reserve quickly, so, yeah.
So. That's just the part of Idaho Falls impact fees.
Not with power, no,
District
it's
stuff,
not, we
that's
just do
power,
police, fire,
right?
parks and roads.
So Hammond's fees, is that part of the approach that you're using?
Mr. Chair, Madam Commissioner, so the city of
We're
Amherst,
so polite.
we.
I've been waiting for someone to call me Madam Commissioner.
So we do not do lighting districts anymore. We haven't done a lighting district in
So
several
everybody
years.
is in the dark.
And what we do is we allow developers to choose a dark sky development. Which they have to apply different standards to develop dark sky developments. And since we started doing that in 2018, every single development has chosen to be a dark sky development.
Sure, it's cheaper.
It's cheaper for them, but I'll tell you what,
Residential crime goes up too.
you do not get complaints about subdivisions that have no streetlights. You get complaints when a street light is out. You get a complaint when a street light is too dim, when it's too bright, when it's on at the wrong side of time of day, when it's in the wrong spot. I have yet to receive in 7 years in Hammond, 15 years in Idaho, I've yet to receive a complaint about a dark sky subdivision. But I get complaints all the time about subdivisions with lights. So we've gone to that model and it's worked very well for us. We currently have 10 lighting districts and we wish we had 0. We're looking at ways of reversing those 10.
I really appreciate that input. Because, I mean, Scott Hall is a big advocate of the lighting districts. And to me, they seem like they're now a nuisance.
Madam Commissioner, if I could just add to that, Scott Hall is our general counsel
Yes.
as well,
Yes,
and he loves the dark sky.
does he?
He does.
Okay, good.
So
I
on the
love
city
hearing that.
side, he really likes that we're not doing lighting districts.
Good. Because
So I
when
think
we've
that-
talked about him, he's,
Well, he doesn't want us to merge them or. It's kept it the way they are.
We have like 170
Yeah. there's-
lighting districts, so
Yeah.
we got a.
We
few
need more than
10.
that. If,
The only disadvantage, the way we've done it is, we do require like one light at a major intersection, and that's ours. We take that on, we pay for it, it comes out of the street budget. And so but we feel like that's fair. We feel like we should be paying for.
As long as we
Major
have a
lights.
road and bridges budget.
So you pay for the light, you don't require the developer to put it up and then just take it over?
Yeah, Norman puts it up. We require standards for those lights. They have to be downlit. They have to have a certain Kelvin value. That's the color of the light. As soon as they meet the standards, then we take them.
what do you guys think about it?
Other no lights.
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time in Park City a few months ago, and it's a dark sky town. And we were wandering up and down the hills and up and down the streets, and it certainly took some getting used to it, but it's almost seems like an upscale thing that people like to do now.
I would be all for no lighting, but do you have developers that would like lighting?
We haven't had any yet, and dark sky doesn't mean no lighting. It just means a different standard for lighting. So in a dark sky development, you don't have publicly run and maintain streetlights, but you do require that the homes have outdoor lighting. That lighting is downlit, it doesn't have any light trespass, things like that. You want to encourage people to have outdoor lighting, and the studies have shown that public street light is beneficial in downtown areas. But in suburban areas, there's really not a public benefit to it, because what you're actually doing with street lights in suburban areas is you're creating this island of light. And outside of that, you just have these massive islands of darkness. But what is most safe is when people provide their own lighting on their homes, porch lighting, eve lighting, things like that. And the public lights in some subdivisions really don't serve a safety purpose, because people aren't robbing homes in the middle of subdivisions.
No, they're breaking in cars. And, large lots where the houses are back from the street and we have street parking. Street lights are the only way to use vehicle break-ins. And
If the.
radical
cars parked
break-ins occur. Non-lit. Free parking streets. And. Neighborhood watch programs spend a great deal of time trying to get people to. Put lights on timers and leave lights on outside so that they can reduce the crime, but that doesn't reach from. The porch light, where the cars are on the street. Which only happens in the older neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The old end of Ross. 17th to Sunnyside. Has one at intersections. The new side north of has. Lots of lights. I'm pretty sure I could go out and play chess anywhere on the block and not be in a dark spot.
Yeah.
Because there's so many lights. I think I have a lot of complaints about those lights because it's
Yeah.
never dark. Before we. Well, I don't understand the rules related to. Less lit neighborhoods. Should call them dark if they have light, but. Is that an option?
We have some neighborhoods in the county that
We don't
don't
have some
have.
old neighborhoods, they're not prime
lights.
neighborhoods.
We have some areas that are away from
Yeah,
town.
urbanized area that don't.
So most of the larger lot subdivisions generally don't have
Yeah,
street lighting. It's mostly the densely developed subdivisions.
One of the-
Smaller lots that we
Yeah.
put them in.
one of the other things that does happen is we are requiring cluster mailboxes. For most of our subdivisions now, and those locations where cluster mailboxes are, it typically has a street light fairly close by. To allow getting mail and stuff like that, and so if you don't have the street lights. And you require cluster mailboxes, you're,
I thought that was a post office requirement.
well, we've got it in the road and bridge standards that require that based on US Postal Service.
Driving.
But I
Yeah.
think you could find ways to still like those.
Yeah, there may be a way to have a local. That you, again, you would have the developer put in lighting for that cluster
Yeah.
mailbox location.
Whether a subdivision is in a lighting district or not is a
Send me your
condition
profile.
usually of a rezone or something like that, so.
And how large the lots are, large lot subdivisions typically haven't had them.
And that's what John's concern was, is the large lot subdivisions. That's where you worry about the crime, the more densely packed ones with lots of houses with lights, less than.
It would be one less thing we would have to track down and research and to do on North Bridge side, so I'm not opposed to figuring out a way to.
I'll have
bring a
Mike
lighting district.
send me their ordinance and then I can send it on to you guys. And
Okay.
we can talk about it, just see what we think and if it's something that we're interested in or not, so.
It's actually not an ordinance that I would send you. It's, we deal with it on development by development basis. So if they choose to be a dark sky subdivision, that's something they agree with in their
Development
in their
agreement.
development agreement. And they have to abide by the standards of the International Dark Sky Association. Third party organization, somewhere like building.
Building codes, yeah.
And so, but it's really easy, you know, lights have to be downlit. They have to be full cutoff, and then there's a Kelvin value.
Yeah, you can just send me the reference to that stuff and then we
If
can.
they want streetlights, they should be building in the city, right, Wade, or buying in
Yeah,
the city.
Public Works, we don't follow full dark sky, elements of it we do, but Public Works has taken the position every intersection lighted. So we do it for traffic safety. But they're downcast. That's why I was telling Austin, we had a group that came to our city council and proposed a dark sky ordinance. We had them come into my office with some members of Public Works.
And you turn the lights off.
Yeah, we sat in the dark, and then it was from the astrological
Yeah.
system.
Uh-huh.
So they were making a movement.
Yeah, so they wanted to be able to look at the stars and things, and so we had a dark sky ordinance in Sheridan where I worked before I came here. But they have a draft ordinance, it's pretty prescriptive, I mean, it's basically fully black, not quite, but, and Public Works kind of pushed back on that just because we get more requests actually for increase of lighting, and so how to dim that, so that's why we don't follow it super close, but we do follow elements of it.
You didn't offer them a map, the big southern view,
Yeah,
parking lot, restroom,
I guess they go out and take.
great view of the night sky.
From what I hear, it's a McAllen Park.
Yeah.
And then there's another park they go to, and they're trying to mimic that in Idaho Falls, to be able to go out and meet stars.
Our first dark
Think
sky
I should
subdivision
sell.
was Quail Ridge. And Quail Ridge was built, I don't know, 25
First dark sky.
first dark sky. And so we really tested it out, this is before my time, we tested it out with Quail Ridge. And Quail Ridge, Scott Hall lives in Quail Ridge.
Yeah.
They loved it, and so based on that success, we said, let's try it other places. And so we've done it in denser neighborhoods since then. And I have not received it.
I don't ever feel like it's really too dark up there either. My parents live up there, so.
Well, the funny thing about lighting is, if you walk around a neighborhood where people have porch lights on, it feels safer than if you just have a light intersection. You know, give it a try.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in the mountains where there aren't street lights,
Yeah,
and our place looks like a ski lodge. Because my wife wants the entire forest lit at night.
Got a lot of lights on our house too.
and there's a, you go into an intersection that's highly lit, your eyes have to adjust. And then when you leave that lighted area, you have to readjust. And there's an element of safety with that readjustment as well.
Be able to get the stars,
Interesting.
go through those.
So what do you think for your current question? I mean, you came in and said you think we need another lighting district. I don't want to leave you hanging with no,
I can wait a little bit and we'll see
Well-
what comes of this dark sky stuff.
If there's a developer that's stop. Discuss something for 6 months and research and make a decision to change the direction. I don't think where we are is a bad place. I think it's a ridiculous number of lighting districts.
I guess the information that I have to put together for Scott, I don't think anything you do would really affect that.
Just background, we had a small lighting district that had a pole and wire damming. And the expense increased the property tax to a couple of owners by $300-400. Make those repairs.
because it
And
was a
that's-
very
and
small
that's
lighting district.
You know, that seems rough. And so coming up with a way to, and that's why Scott suggested a fund that we could make the repair out of and then put the tax revenue back into over 3 or 4 years instead of 1 year. Would make it more palatable for grandma.
It's very tempting going forward to just not have to do it.
Yeah.
And you can leverage that by telling the developers, lighting district, this is how much you're gonna have to pay. And, you know, we're gonna increase that because now we know how much it costs to replace, or black sky. I mean, a few requirements that
Yeah,
easily passed on to in the cost of building.
So the one that does need repair that Rocky Mountain Power sent me an estimate for. There are enough reserves in that account. You guys okay if I just tell them to go ahead and put it on their schedule?
Thank you for some good news. Yeah, but we still need to figure out how to get more reserves in every one of the districts.
Yes, we need that. The number of assessment side.
Come up with a number to.
Where was that thing? So, okay, thank you.
And just a couple updates, on our bridges. One on 33rd South, it has been grouted. They're gonna start on the roadway soon. They don't have a guardrail yet, but, they're working on getting a guardrail there, so hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have that open to traffic and then probably close it down for a day or two in April, May to pave it. 55th, they were starting on Monday and they had a crane breakdown on site. And they had a crane breakdown on their lot, and so they didn't have a very good Monday, but they are starting to put those box culverts in. 129th South, the girders are poured and they're due to be delivered next week. They've got pretty much all of the in-water work done. And 49th South, we also heard that they have the slabs poured for that. We don't have a delivery date for those yet. But, if they've got them poured, that's better than 2 weeks ago when they
Yeah,
weren't
they
sure
didn't
when
know
they
if
were
they
gonna
were
have
gonna
it. Yeah,
Get them poured.
so, progress is being made on all of those things, and I think the one up on 55th and County Line Road will probably be, if they get all the sections in this week, they'll be starting on road work next week probably, so.
Then we have cross limits.
Frost limits
Speed
are
limits.
still up. So the frost limits are 35 miles an hour for buses and trucks. Those are posted all around the county. There's also a PSI per inch of tire that's on there. I did get that information, Brad Clements. And he was gonna share that on
It
Facebook.
was
I think
on
it was on
Facebook, I
this.
saw it, yeah.
Social media.
We have started working behind some of the gates to get the snow off the roads to allow them to dry out. We haven't opened those roads yet. Some of the other roads that have no maintenance signs on them, we've also tried to get the snow off and so we can get some of that roadway dried off before. We have had some road washouts, minor ones this year, that we're going to be repairing. One on West Broadway was one over the weekend that we lost a little bit of the road, but, wasn't near as bad as some other years that we've had where we've had a gully
And a
that's
gentle,
13 feet deep.
gentle
West
thaw.
Broadway is closed at the moment from 115th going west
Really?
due to water over the roads.
Yeah,
Darn farmers. That water in their fields.
I'd like to.
and I think, yesterday after I was here, I went and met with Mr. Hess on his parcel. I think we have a path forward with him. I'll be talking with the engineers on that later today. And trying to get some language and stuff together for a path forward for that First Street project with the city of Ammon.
I gotta smile.
We finally got
Like,
half
thank goodness.
what we need for everything, don't we? Or are we still waiting on one?
There is one that I don't know that they've closed on, but there's another one that we have an agreement for possession. There's another one that I'm not sure, I haven't heard back from Weston whether the judge signed the proper documentation this time. But yeah, I think we can move forward, we just don't have all the money paid to the right people at the right time yet. But as far as being able to progress with a bidding, that's now back to the city of Ammon and your noise study and the things that still have to be done on that. So,
And actually, we're ready to bid it. But the latest hiccup, I was talking to Blair for the meeting, is we had a meeting with LTAC. And they said that the funding for this project, which was approved by Congress 3 years ago, is now being re-examined for DEI issues. Now, isn't that the silliest thing?
You know, there,
This is
well,
a road.
I'm not sure you could say
Elon
silliest
Musk.
after yesterday. I saw some pretty silly things,
We.
but yeah, pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and we notified, Congressman Simpson right away as soon as we heard that. And his staff were not happy to hear that. But what was kind of surprising to me, because I've been talking to them every day this week, is they are as surprised as we are.
Mhm.
And they don't know, they're like, who told you this? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll tell you who we know who told us, but I don't know who told them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we're
How
trying to get a
accurate
source.
was this information?
Yeah, but they're very, very frustrated. We're frustrated. And what they're telling us is plan on full speed ahead, no delay. But if that's how it is, like we were originally told that it would be a 6-month delay for that review. Like 6 months, we're done. We can't put that out. this year.
Can't do that out this year.
So that's what we're fighting now. That's top of mind for me. I'm glad that the right of way is moving along, but we got this other thing we gotta work out. Yeah.
Full speed ahead in a canoe or a kayak is different than full speed ahead in a muscle boat. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of engineering on Bear Creek,
So,
full speed ahead,
full speed ahead, yes,
okay,
full speed ahead. They've been talked to about it. They're working on it. The Forest Service is finalizing up their numbers for about approximately 825,000.
oh, but
Well, so
yeah,
that was what they were able to secure. The engineer's estimate that I had for all of it was
Yeah.
more than that, but that is what they've been able to jockey around, and they're working on an agreement to come back with the Schedule A agreement and word that in such that they can basically hand us a check for 825,000.
then we can get it open.
We can send it out to bid,
Traffic
yeah.
by June.
I won't promise that, no. We can certainly.
I
we can
think
go
the
out to
Forest
bid.
Service has taken the brunt of all the calls on this, cause I haven't had one since the day before we had our meeting with the Forest Service. So I think the needle shifted somewhere.
Yeah, they're taking
Might
the
have been
brunt of
really
the calls.
gave some folks their phone numbers. Because-
Yeah.
Good.
But
That-
they are moving forward with the design of that.
that'll be good.
And I think that if we get the money from the Forest Service within the next 2 months, I think we can probably go out to bid as soon as that happens and try to get contractors on board.
Are we going to have trouble finding contractors who want to do it?
Don't know. I,
Don't let Troy retire yet. It's kind of his neighborhood and his line of work.
yeah. I would hope that it was a big enough project that we wouldn't have trouble finding contractors. But finding contractors,
We'll jump that
In the
quick.
middle of the summer too.
yeah, that's where it gets iffy. I think we can get contractors. But if you get them to jump from another project they've already bid out, you're gonna pay more.
Okay. Thanks.
That it?
Think so.
Okay, what was your question that we're all just dying to hear?
Oh, it's so easy. It's not a big deal. I was just,
Sorry,
that was
that was just,
that name and that subdivision was one I wasn't familiar with. It must not have been tracking. I was just curious.
Kessler.
Yeah.
So you know where your Grand Peaks Medical Plaza is? It's the building just to the north of that. So where the expert floors and P box is right there. So they just needed a different zone for
One
one
that
of
was
their
supposed to
tenants.
be dumping.
And the back part of it's done, but yeah, so
Good spot.
yeah, that's where it is.
so I had a call from Brad Linford about different one that I told him I couldn't talk about, but you could, so I sent him to you.
Yeah, we got it all squared away.
Okay, and part of that conversation was about the other rental on that one, because you know, that was, well, cause it's the state thing on 45th one. I don't know. Yeah. You got a thing?
I do have one thing, yes.
As long as
So I
it's not
talked,
about another new pickup.
no more pickups. So I talked to
Told you
Lance
on that.
about this, but we thought that we ought to run it past you, with these tariffs. Aluminum is on the run and, our trailers, our waste trailers were built completely out of aluminum other than just the main subframe.
Right.
And so we went ahead and got another trailer tied down. We paid for, so you're gonna see the bills for those come across. We made $22,500 payments for the down payments on them.
Two.
And that makes it so that we can use the extrusion that he has currently purchased. So we won't see any of the up. Right now, we're at about 45 cents a pound up in the last week. So that makes about an $8,100 difference in the price of a trailer, and that's just in the last
Yeah.
week. So if this thing really makes a move, which they're speculating. So we went ahead and made that decision, so, but this could push us into the red a little bit on our capital heavy budget.
Yeah.
So just so that you guys are aware that we made that
Save
decision,
us money.
but I think in the end, it's gonna save us money, and if
Makes
this,
sense.
we'll continue to follow this so that we can provide you with the savings that we've made. My question to you is, do we do another one? Or do we wait it out and see what happens? We normally buy one and sometimes buy two, depending on what the aluminum, the extrusion part of the trailers are doing.
And budget.
And we watch that really close. And sometimes we always budget for one. But always have a little cushion
So
there in case
one
we just
just
pick
ordered
up
this
another one.
one.
Pardon me?
Well, they ordered two.
Two.
Yeah, we had an original. We always have one every
We got
year.
So
another
this
one.
was the
And then
second.
we
Yeah.
went ahead and got a second. Now, we don't necessarily need to get another, but I don't know how long, we all know that when the price goes up, it takes a lot longer for it to come back down. So if
What's the
we,
projected timeline for getting in-country aluminum production back online, 3 years or 5?
I don't know.
And how long will the tariffs stay in
Could you-
place?
Well, the whole
15
point was
minutes
to
or
Right,
6 months or?
yeah.
I think
At
right
least
now,
15 minutes.
I talked to the trailer guy again this morning and asked him if they had seen any change, and he said no. So this is quite an up. Usually they'll go 5 or 6 cents.
Yeah.
Not 50 cents. So this thing could really make a change, but I think it was just the threat
Knee jerk.
that he was going to do that. And a lot of that comes out of Canada. So that's why the big push for the aluminum extruder. But just so you know, we made that decision. We will stick with the 2 for now. But if this thing really looks like it's gonna make a run, we
I thought
probably ought
it
to
would
come
go
back.
down
and ask
because
again.
you're gonna go into Ukraine and just get it all for free.
That might work too. That'd be great.
Like,
So that's all I have.
Transportation costs might be prohibitive from
Yeah.
there compared to Canada. What do I know?
Okay. What, you guys have anything for us? Love having you here,
Oh,
really.
thanks for having us.
There's donuts. And there, one of them's a St. Patrick's color, I'm pretty sure.
One thing just to report, and this is more for Austin, we had a very nice meeting with James Booth that owns the salvage yards up on the north side, which is in our area of impact. It's not requesting to annex into the city, but it spurred a good discussion because we don't have salvage yards in our zoning code. So, I've directed staff to start looking at that because I know we have discussed in the past about how that annexation within our area of impact will be impacted. So anyways, I'll keep you posted on that, but.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Yeah, I know you had talked to me about that, I think, a couple months now, so.
So. It was one.
just on Woodruff across from Anderson Business Development. Guess it's 15, should say.
Yeah, it's.
Lance gonna get mad at me.
St. Clair out there.
The industrial park he's proposing, I think he's constructing, or he wants to do construction.
It's where I pull it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and we don't allow salvage yards in our, so we just don't have it, so we don't address it. And for us to annex any of those properties up there, we have to.
Yeah.
Remember when there used to be?
That was all I had in regards to it.
Thank you.
On that note, Austin, what is going on with the guy that's on the corner
I
there?
haven't heard anything else from him.
Nothing has.
Has he brought anything else to you?
No, and they moved all their machinery out, so it's like they've abandoned ship, so.
Yeah.
They leave any tires?
Oh, they're all there, every one of them. I was hoping they cleaned, at least do that much. clean the
Yeah, I
tires
think
up while
they-
They were waiting.
Saw that
Well,
legislation
Ended up
move
deciding it was
It get
cost
moved
prohibitive.
on this legislation to fund
Alright, you know,
tire cleanup on abandoned. Which I think I mess on my own. I think that's abandoned.
Yeah, we've
Some
taken
of it's
him,
abandoned in the street now.
we've taken him the legislation and given him the contact at the state to talk about that. We need to go follow up and see if he ever contacted him.
Yeah, we've been kind of watching that, you know, making sure that he's not gonna try to slip that in there, and they've moved everything now, everything. Got a couple mini X's and a bigger X.
I'll have to ask my code enforcement guy if he's talked to him recently, because he was talking to him quite often. I'll ask him, go
I
back.
think they took that to Jefferson or what?
What's that?
You think they took it to Jefferson or what?
No, the material.
They just left
all
the
everything
material
was
there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we made a big enough stink over that deal that, I mean, and involved Jefferson County, so there was no outlet. He had no. You know, he
Yeah.
had no ability to move that quietly.
Right.
Kind of like the other stink.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, no, I was just interested to see what had developed there, because not as far as any type of cleanup there.
Just have one thing, Lisa Workshop with IF is, moving forward on a Bonneville County Recreation District. Has she reached out to?
She has not. I've heard rumors in the wind and leaves rattling on trees.
So I'll leave that to her then.
Not in fact, Lisa and I sat on the Parks and Rec
Yeah.
Commission. And she had to leave before, our meetings always run 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we both usually have something we have to leave for at the end of the hour, and she got out before me, so, but she was doing this. And then she left, so I expect we'll have a conversation.
Would be a countywide, and we had a great big meeting last week over at Mall Ventures. There was like 15 people from all sorts of different areas. And for the city of Mammoth standpoint, I can't speak for the other entities that were there. We're really interested in a pool, a county pool that can be shared, enjoyed by everybody in the county. Our little city of Mammoth pool it's just overrun, and we've got to do something. But the other entities there were interested in other things like hockey, practice fields. Somebody mentioned up by the dam blowout. I don't know what that is. But
Campground.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, there was a lot of ideas, and she said she would be reaching out to.
There's no parking for anything with blowout. That's why we need to get Bear Road fixed so that Calamity can open, so that we don't have 3 miles of boat trailers parked along Highway 26, because they do
Yeah.
have that parking lot and boat ramp.
Well, if the state gets what they want with recharge, we'll have 30 county swimming pools you can use anytime.
Yeah, we just need to make sure that we have control
Sorry, I shouldn't say
of
that.
the
Why not?
surface water, which seems like that'll be a pure reclamation resource. When it's sitting there on the surface. And the ground below it has to be BLM.
Well, I think that's a good idea. Be good to hear about that.
Yeah, I think the
We
discussion.
could just put a cover over one of those and we'd have it. Fresh water. That would be a wonderful. It'd be a taxing, separate taxing district.
Yeah, and you could draw the boundaries however you want. I think it makes most sense to be countywide, but, you know, I think that's debatable. But you draw the district however you want, and then you'd have kind of you'd have two votes really. You'd have your initial vote for formation, and then you'd have a second vote if you got there for any of the funding, any of the resources. I've been involved in 3 different recreation districts, in Idaho, and Jerome and Haley and Ketchum. And in Ketchum, actually it was combined, it was the Blaine County Recreation District. And they did a pool, they ran a community center, and then they managed all of those bike trails up there in the Sun Valley area, from Bellevue all the way to Sun Valley.
Yeah.
And so that was their mission. They had those 3 areas. They did it really well. They had a lot of community support, and they didn't venture too far outside of those 3 areas. In Jerome, they ran. a pool.
Wondered how they did all those bike trails.
Yep, that's it.
Now I
For
know.
the recreation district. In Jerome, it was very similar. It was a pool. It was bike trails in Jerome County. And then it was about 40 acres of soccer fields, recreation fields, baseball.
That's a lot of acres.
Yeah. So, and that's what they did. They stuck to that mission.
Well, what can we say? I would say it's still close. We could have ice skating competition.
Ice fishing at Ryrie.
Yeah.
Well, with. We're having another helicopter landing. Yeah, okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thanks, everybody.